Good morning, Boker Tov. May it be a Boker Tov. May we hear Besoros Tovos. We should hear good news from Israel and around the world. May the hostages come home. May our soldiers have a sweeping victory and return to their families. I want to thank our generous Amuna series sponsors for the year, Dr. Davia Bella Morgan, in memory of Rabbi Dr. Brian Galbit, and in memory of Bella's mother, Dr. Ellen Chanzer. We remain very, very grateful to the Morgans. This morning's shir is also sponsored by Pam and Prosper Abitpol in commemoration of her father's yahrzeit, Lester Greenberg Eliezer Ben Meir, dedicated by the Masori, Spingner, and Hasidim families in commemoration of the Shloshim of Shoshana Masori, Shoshana Bat Rachel, who was a beloved member of our community for many years, passed away recently. She was eager to learn, always wanted to grow. And by Rachel and Alex Katz, dear friends of Yerushalayim, whose recently married son Isaac is drafting to the IDF today. So we're incredibly proud of him. We wish him well. Katz is our incredible family who are changing Israel and the world voluntarily, doing tremendous things at Kilat Eretz Chemda and passing that spirit on to their children. He should be safe and secure and Mitzvah Hashem successful in all that he does. Okay, so as always, we'll start with a little bit of Emunah Correspondence, and then we'll get back into the learning that we were doing. I love the emails. Please keep them coming. Those stories strengthen me, and through our shir and being able to share them, I hope that they strengthen others. The feedback we get, they strengthen others as well. The fact that we are applying. So first, I want to share, last week we spoke about the tighter the grip, the tighter you hold something, then the less successful you are. And the looser the grip, then the better you do. So when you go through life and you're filled with angst and worry and you're holding on tight to everything has to work out exactly the way you want, the way you drew it up, the way you planned it, and tight, then you're just going to cause yourself physical, mental, spiritual, being unhealthy and problems. And I gave the example. Kevin's here this week, so I can't talk about it. That's the rule. But I gave the example, a drummer, the tighter that you hold the drumsticks, the more poorly you play. In sports, the tighter you hold the bat or the golf club, the less successful you'll be in making contact and hitting where you want to go. So Shelley Brand shared with me, Mrs. Shelley Brand shared with me another beautiful application and insight of this idea. In Tehillim, Shir Amalos, Parakov Chav Zayin, we say, Kechitzim biyad gibor, Kain b'nei ha'neurim. We say, like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of our youth. Our attitude towards our relationship with our children are like the arrows in the hand of the archer. There's a beautiful Kutzker on this, which is, Kutzker says on this pasuk, before we get to her interpretation, Kutzker says, the archer has the bow and arrow, and you pull the arrow towards you. The tighter you pull it towards you, the closer you hold it towards you. When you let go and release it, the straighter it goes and the farther it will travel. And the same is true with our children. The closer we hold them towards us, the tighter we pull them towards us, the closer we hold them. When we let go, the further they'll go, and the more in line, the more on the path they will remain. So it says the Kutzker, that's the Pshat, Kechitzim biyad gibor kain b'nei ha'neurim. But she wants to suggest that, like arrows, if you hold the bow too loose, the arrows will fall to the ground. If you hold it too tight, you're going to overshoot the target. If you're holding it too tight, you're never going to possibly be able to aim and hit the target. So you have to hold it just right, just like with children. Don't hold them too tight, but you also can't be too loosey-goosey. You got to be just right, like the three bears. You got to get it just right when it comes to children, and that's how they'll fly. That's how they'll flourish. That's how they're going to go very far in life. So as we're going through our lives and the things that we do, don't hold on too tight. Don't hold on too tight. Just like the musician and just like the athlete, you got to have the right grip. You have to have the right grip. You have to have the right grip and go to work. You can't be too loose and sit on your couch at home and think God's going to drop off a brown paper bag filled with cash. You got to go to work. But don't be holding on so tight when you go to work. The grip is so tight. It's all up to me. And if I don't make it, no parnasa, and my success and my failures. We take our initiative. We do our thing. We make our effort. And then we let go and let God. And then we submit and surrender. And then the rest is up to Him. So don't hold on to, I go to the airport, I was on time, I made the plans, they were reasonable, they were responsible, I did everything I could, and then the rest is up to Him. Don't hold on too tight, don't grip too tight. Got another email from Kibbutz Shluchot near Beit Shan in northern Israel. Thank you so much for living with Emunah Shir, blah, blah, blah. A few months ago, you spoke about a survey which showed that students thought their parents cared more about them getting good grades than being kind, and the research suggested that parents ask their children every night at the dinner table, what is something kind or helpful they did today? Remember that? We shared a research from Harvard that if you ask children, what do your parents care more about? Your grades, your performance, or your kindness, your character? What do they care more about? And overwhelmingly, children reported, they answered, they care much more about my grades. Academically, how well I do. You used to say, could you get into an Ivy League school? But today, what moron would send their child to an Ivy League school? So we don't, that's no longer, I don't know if it ever should have been, but it certainly is no longer a standard. So many children answered, sadly, that their parent cares more about their grades, their academic performance, than their character, and then their kindness. And then the researchers, which I'm not an enormous reader of research, but seems to me to be unusual, concluded by not only sharing their research and their data, but by making a suggestion. Is that common, Mrs. Moskowitz? Did they do that? Make suggestions? Yeah, you delete that. You edit that out of the Journal of New England Journal of Medicine. But these researchers got it in, and their conclusion was, at the dinner table every night, don't just ask, what'd you get on your math test? How'd you do in school today? Did you get any grades back? But ask, did you do something kind for someone else today? Did you do something nice for someone else today? So we shared all this several months ago. So the author of this email says, you suggested that we also ask our kids every night, when is a moment today that you were thankful to Hashem? We're looking back, can realize when Hashem was helping you. In other words, what we talk about, what we speak about, is what communicates what we prioritize, what we care about. So if you talk about the stock market, or you talk about the sports results, or you talk about your grades, or you talk about money or material things or possessions, then our children understandably conclude, those are my parents' priorities. That's what matters to them. That's how they measure my success. But if you talk about character and kindness, if you talk about Amuna and bitachon, if you talk about Hashem, you talk about gratitude, then children will feel, that's how I was raised, on an attitude of gratitude. That's what matters. That's what matters most. So we suggested, and I'm always encouraging, endorsing, trying to remind ourselves to use our family Hashgacha Pratis WhatsApp group to post the stories that inevitably, invariably happen to all of us every day, where you can feel Hashem in our lives. So the author of the email says, just like we learn and we darshan it up, we darshan up the emails too. We read the email and then we learn it together. So we try to ask these two questions every night, and our children excitedly say, time for dinner questions, and see who can share the most stories. A few weeks ago, I took my 7-year-old daughter to the shopping center to buy some clothing for her and pick up Pizza Hut to bring home. In Israel, Pizza Hut's kosher. It was at night, and as we got next to our car, I dropped the car key and we couldn't find it initially. Eventually, after a minute, I found it behind the back tire. I picked it up and said to my daughter, thank God we found it. She said, much to my pleasant surprise, that when the key fell and we initially couldn't find it, she asked Hashem to help us find it. I told her how happy I was that she recognized in the moment that we needed Hashem's help. May Hashem bring all of us the help that we need. What was his point is, if that's what you talk about, so then that's how the child thinks. In that moment, that's what they say, and that's what they think about, and that's what they want. I was playing with my grandson on Sunday, and he had a little wand, and I said, Aryeh, what are you wishing for? What are you hoping for the wand? He said, I want to make you really tall, Zeta, so you can go up to Shemayim and pull down the Beis HaMikdash and put it in my backyard. So I told his parents, who happen to be pretty good parents, I clearly, where does a child get that from? That there's a Beis HaMikdash, that it's upstairs, that we have to bring it down. Okay, the part about his backyard maybe needs some work, but what do our children believe or think about, and what do they wish for when they wave a wand? What they hear from their parents. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. We say in Tehillim, Ha'emanti ki adaber. We say in Hala. We just sang it through our Pesach. We just had Rosh Chodesh. Ha'emanti ki adaber. I believe because I speak about it. What we speak about, we believe, we practice, we do. We create that energy around us. So when we speak about Amuna and Hashem, and He's here, and I feel Him, and there's a plan, and it will make sense, and we'll come to understand, and He's holding us up, and I can lean on Him, and He's supporting us, and it's all part of a bigger picture. So when we speak, Ha'emanti ki adaber, I believe because I speak about, because I say, that is all part of what we do. Okay, those were a couple of emails to get us started, and back to our limud for today. So we are learning Re'eh Amuna, incredible sefer by Rav Moshe Shapiro, and we were distinguishing to start between emes and Amuna. Emes is the truth, and the truth doesn't care about your feelings. The truth doesn't care about how you behave and how you act and whether you fulfill it or whether you do it. The truth is the truth. Whether you subscribe to gravity or not, it will knock you down. No one cares whether you've studied and understand the physics of gravity. Your relationship with gravity is unimportant to and doesn't have an impact on whether gravity exists. Gravity exists. Gravity is the truth. Gravity has a pull. Gravity is effective. Whether you understand it think about it, care about it, feel about it, talk about it, live with it or not. Hashem's existence doesn't depend on you knowing He exists. He will exist whether you've studied the Bible codes or not. He will exist whether you've gone through the Discovery Program or not. That's the emes. It is simply pashut the emes. It is the truth. It is fact. It is undeniable. If a person studies with an open mind, if a person analyzes the evidence, you will see overwhelmingly, as much evidence there is for anything else, there is evidence that Hashem exists, that there is a first cause, that there is a source of all, that the world didn't come into disorder, didn't turn into order without a designer, without a creator. It's common sense to believe He exists. It's common sense. As has been said many times, it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does to be a believer. It takes more faith to be an atheist. You have to really, really lean in and believe and want to, because it justifies some life or lifestyle that He doesn't exist. It takes more faith to be an atheist or agnostic than it does to be a believer, because it's common sense. If you open your eyes and you know that every time you see disorder turn to order, there's a creator. If you see paint on a canvas, there was a painter. Not some of the new paintings. I don't mean, what do they call that? Abstract? I don't know. I'm not knocking it. I know it sells for a lot of money. That same grandson who wants to wave the wand can produce the same types of paintings. He doesn't bring in the same amount of money. I don't get it. I'm sure it's only because I'm an ignorant boor. I'm not criticizing anyone. I don't get it. But when you see a painting that looks like something and makes sense, you know somebody didn't knock over and spill over paint on a canvas. You know there was a painter. When you see a sculpture that resembles something, you know there was a sculptor. When you see a building, you know a hurricane didn't just blow through Home Depot and it resulted in those materials coming together to be the building. You know there was an architect, and you know there was a builder. In every other area of our life, when you open a book, you know that nobody knocked over ink on a page and it turned into this book, these letters, these words, these sentences. You know there's an author. In every area of our life, when disorder or chaos turn to order, we know, it's common sense, it's obvious that there's an author, a sculptor, an architect, a painter, a builder. And yet we live this life and in this world with the complexity of the human body and the world and the cosmos and the universe, and that the earth is the exact distance from the sun for it to exist. A little bit closer, we would explode in a ball of fire. A little bit further, we would freeze and couldn't exist. And it's exactly the distance we need to be. We look at all of that and we say, yeah, but maybe it just came to be. It was just a coincidence. Maybe it just happened. The Big Bang blew up and here we are. We don't apply that logic anywhere else in our life. The common sense conclusion is that there is a creator. It takes more faith to be an atheist than to be a believer. That's the emes. It's the emes, plain and simple. There is an emes. There is a creator. There is a first cause. He's intimately involved and aware of and intervenes in our lives. All that's the emes. Emunah is, do you live it? Do you apply it? Do you execute on it? Do you manifest it? When things in life are going wonderfully, do we realize that's from Him? When things in life could be a little bit better, do we understand and lean in and realize it's not random, it's not chance, we're not just victims of nature, that He's in charge and He's in control in this world? There's a bigger something going on. There's something more happening, that there is a world to come and an afterlife and an immortality and an eternity, and it's not just about the here and now. That's Emunah. Our relationship to the emes is Emunah. And Rav Moshe Shapiro developed this with the idea of being a ne'eman, building a bias ne'eman b'Yisrael, being reliable and trustworthy, being faithful, being sturdy and stable. And all this we've said until now. We are up to the second paragraph on page Chaf Aleph, page 21. Ha'emunah nosen is bias le'emes. Faith gives a foundation, a house for the emes, for the facts to be able to reside. Osala makom, it makes a space. But that space where the truth lives has to be reliable and dependable. You can't blow with the wind. You can't fluctuate. You can't be in and out. You can't be sometimes and not other times. You can't be like, I'm married to you and I'm home, but not when I'm on a business trip. I'm in love with you when you do the nice things to me, but when I don't like you, then all bets are off. Like, if you're in it, that's the vow that we take. We originated the vow, by the way. It's called the ksuba, the pledge, the promise, harayat mekudeshes li, the giving, the receiving of the ring. All of that are the commitment, the covenant, the promise that we make to one another under a chuppah. And what it means is, in good times and bad times, in sickness and in health, it means that we're in it. We're in it for the long haul. We're in it together. and it won't always be easy, and it won't always be pleasant, and it won't always be pleasurable, and you won't always be behaving the way I want you to behave, and that means I'm still not going anywhere. I'm still committed. That's what it means. We also have a mitzvah of divorce when it's appropriate. I'm not suggesting that we don't, but the institution of marriage is to build a bias ne'eman, reliable, dependable, constant, consistent. That's what it means. When you're a parent, the commitment, the covenant to have a child, We're living in a crazy time. Around the world, there's a population crisis. Here in America too. The only ones who are offsetting that and helping are the Jewish people. And among the Jewish people, I'm talking about the observant Jewish community. And the more observant, the more you're helping the population challenge. And we daven for those who want to add to the population. They should have success and nachas and be blessed with beautiful, healthy children. But the world today is concluded, I don't want to have children. You have a crisis when people die at a faster rate than children are being born. That creates a population crisis. It's happening around the globe. It's happening here in America. You know where it's not happening? In Israel. It's not happening in Israel. That's a topic for another time. But why are people concluding I don't want to have children? Why? Some are concluding, they think nobly, they look around this world and say, I'm going to bring children into this world. This backwards, upside down, deeply disturbed world of lies, world of selfishness, world of corruption, world of immorality, world of moral depravity. I'm going to bring children into this world. Forget about it. And maybe it's understandable. In fact, so understandable, there was a period of our history where people felt that too. Who thought that? In Mitzrayim. None other than Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron HaKohen, Miriam HaNeviah, their father felt that. He looked around Egypt and he said, this persecution, this oppression, this anti-Semitism, this hatred, this war to the south, to the north, Iran, forget it. We're not bringing children into this world. It's a reasonable conclusion. Thank God. And Miriam came along and said, Paro is just killing the males. You're killing the females too. And we know the mirrors and Yechava beautified herselves and attracted their husbands, and the Nashim Tzidkanios and the merit of righteous women, we are still here, which is always the case because Judaism is a gender-biased religion. It is a bias against men. It's always promoting and praising women and always knocking the men. I'm not joking. I'm serious. Happens to be true. If you study the Torah and you study Chazal, you'll see many more praiseworthy things about women than of men, many more compliments of women than of men, and many more criticism of men than women, but all of that is for another time. So thank God the Nashim Tzidkanios, the women saved the day. But today we're back in that place where some people, others, and I don't know the statistics, but I would guess the majority of people not having children. Why? Because, they're annoying. They're difficult. They could be a pain. They're inconvenient. They don't always cry when it's convenient for you. They don't need the diaper change when it's convenient for you. When they're potty training, they don't need the bathroom when it's convenient for you. They're expensive. Have you noticed how expensive they are? Food, diapers, let alone Jewish education, they're expensive. So if you live a life which is all about your happiness and your pleasure and your freedom and your time and you, children sort of interfere. They get in the way. They get in the way of that. So it's easier to not have children. And there's a major population challenge in this world today. We're living in a backwards world. Someone was in touch with me and I hope to work with them on legislation about, we live in a world where insurance and the government pay for birth control, but they don't pay for fertility treatments. And we wonder why we have a population crisis in terms of what we popularize and promote and what we pay for. It is unbelievably expensive to need fertility treatments. It's something that is no less of a condition. I don't say that with any judgment or to make someone feel bad, but it's no less than a condition than other health issues that insurance all pays for. It is absurd. If you prioritize continuity in population growth, then it is a given that insurance and that government subsidizes what's necessary to help a population. That needs to be corrected. It needs to be corrected immediately. So when parents have a child, what are they saying to that child? I'll wake up in the middle of the night for you when I feel like it. I'll be your parent when you're compliant, when you're honoring and respect. But when you have chutzpah, you're on your own. When you're not on the path that I want you to be, if you're figuring things out for yourself, then I'm no longer your parent. I disown you. No, when you become a parent, nobody tells this to people because there's no training, there's no degree, there's no license, there's no test you have to pass. And there are many, maybe who shouldn't be. But when you become a parent, you're making a promise, a commitment, a covenant to be ne'eman to that child. You are a parent 24/7 for the rest of your life. Hopefully they become an adult and graduate and grow up, but you're always that parent. Worrying, caring, loving, maybe funding, but I don't know if they graduate that, they go off the payroll at some point, I'm told. So you're always that parent. That's a covenant. That's what it means to be a ne'eman. That's what it means to be a ne'eman. So what is Emunah? Emunah is not, oh, I believe that there is a Hashem. That's not Emunah. That's the emes. The emes doesn't need your Emunah. The emes, says Rav Moshe Shapiro, the emes says there's a God. That's a truth. That's a fact. It's a reality, like gravity. Now, what's your relationship with Hashem? Are you ne'eman? Do you have Emunah? Means the same way in my home, my commitment to my spouse and my commitment to my children is that this is a covenant. This is a bris. This is a promise. This is a contract. This is a vow. God, I make a promise and a commitment and a covenant and a vow to you. I'm in it. I'm here for the long haul. I'm here not only when it's convenient, not only when it's comfortable, not only when I understand it, not only when I appreciate it, not only when it's geschmack to be a yid, I'm in it when it's schwer zu sein to be a yid. I'm in it not only when it's fun and energized and enthusiastic and it all makes sense and we're celebrating in the simcha and it's amazing. I'm also in it when it's inconvenient and it's a pain and I don't know where you are or why you do this and how hard this is. I'm practicing Emunah. I'm ne'eman. I'm still there. I'm still there. Ne'emar. Next paragraph. Vaya b'chziv b'lidata oso. Torah tells us, Yehuda, the great Yehuda, the son of Yaakov Avinu, goes and has children, Er and Onan, and b'chziv b'lidata oso, in Keziv, a place. In Mefarish Rashi, Omer ani Hashem, shepaska miled is nikra Keziv. Why was it called Keziv, this place? Why did it have its name Keziv? Keziv, what does Keziv mean? A deceiver. A deceiver because that is the place where they ceased to have children. Hayotili kamo achzev. Ashali chazvu mimav. Sheker nikra chazav. We call sheker, another name for lies and distortions and untruth, is sheker v'chazav. Chazav is a lie, a distortion, a corruption. V'gam davar amafsik nechsha mishaker. Kiven she'etzam hosa emes yomedes ve'ina betela. Svas emes tikon la'ad. Emes is everlasting. Truth is immutable. Immutable. Truth is impenetrable. Truth is not flexible. Truth is forever. Sheker is chazav. Sheker is fleeting. Sheker doesn't have a leg to stand on. Sheker is lies and corruption and untruth. Bo'ofen doma amar b'mishnah, hamayim ha'machazvim psulim, l'kadesh mechatas, Elohim hamayim ha'machazvim me'echad b'shavua, shava shanim. Something that's not reliable, not dependable, not consistent, not predictable is a lie, is not truth. Truth is it's reliable. It's reliable. You know what the emes is? If you and I make up to meet at a certain time, if you show up on time, if you're punctual, you're reliable. And you may show up, you may not show up, you may be on time, you may be late, you may follow through, you may drop the ball. You're not ne'eman. Then you're not ne'eman. What kind of a relationship is that? What kind of a relationship? A lot of relationships fail and falter and struggle because the other party, one party or both parties are not ne'eman. Yeah, maybe follow through, maybe not. Maybe to show up, maybe not. Maybe can lean on, maybe not. Maybe can trust and confide, maybe not. That's not ne'eman. The core, the basis of ne'eman, of Emunah, is consistency, constancy, reliability, dependability. Can I predict? Will you be there? Can I set my watch to it? Such water in that case, in that category, that criteria, it's not reliable. Because if it won't always be there, it's not reliable. So all of this is Rav Moshe Shapiro's way of brilliantly, and this was his specialty, taking words and reducing them to their root, to their core, in order to be able to open them up to really understand what they mean. So before this, and we've been studying Emunah now for many years, and hundreds of shiurim, and we go to Emunah is faith. Oh, what's Emunah? It's faith that God exists. No, it's not. His existence doesn't depend on you. Emunah is, take the emes that God exists, and Emunah is, are you ne'eman? Are you ne'eman? Same thing in marriage. Did you build the Bayis Ne'eman? You have an anniversary coming up. You go out and you have a beautiful conversation and you evaluate and reflect and say, are we Ne'eman to one another? What does that mean, are we Ne'eman? How nice is the card? How many roses? How much chocolate? How big a piece of jewelry? That's what determines the Ne'emanas, whether it's a Bayis Ne'eman in the end. That is not the definition of a Bayis Ne'eman. Back at the L'chaim and the Vort and the Ufruf and the Chuppah and the Sheva, we have a lot of celebrations that go around the wedding. At each of them, someone said, you build a Bayis Ne'eman b'Yisrael. Good. Now your 10th anniversary, your 20th anniversary, your 50th anniversary. Here's homework. Celebrating your 50th anniversary, look back. Did we fulfill? Are we fulfilling building a Bayis Ne'eman? Well, what does that mean? Did we pay tuition? What does that mean? Did we go on vacations? Did we buy gifts? Did we remember each other's birthdays? And did we commemorate anniversaries? That's not Bayis Ne'eman. Those are all nice. The cherry on top. But that's not Bayis Ne'eman. Bayis Ne'eman meant, were we reliable and dependable? Were we consistent? Did we show up? Could we confide? Could we trust? Were we trustworthy to one another? That's a Bayis Ne'eman, and the same is true with Hashem. The emes, the fact is He exists. Good, now let's evaluate and look at your day. Are you Ne'eman to His existence? Is your day faithful to the knowledge that He exists? Is your day faithful to that knowledge? They say, I've shared this previously in other contexts, people say a lot of things about what they prioritize, what they value. I care about this and I care about that. And this is important to me and that matters to me. So there's two ways to find out whether that's true. Give me your credit card statement and give me your calendar. And now we'll see whether what you say you care about, you care about. Our credit card statement, our bank account statement doesn't lie. You say you care about tzedakah? Okay, let's see what percentage of your income you give to tzedakah. Let's see how you spend your money and what you spend your money on. Because your finances don't lie. What we spend our money on, material things, possessions, experiences, people, things, growth, activity, wealth, wellness. What do you spend your money on? And your calendar. Ooh, on my family, when I love and spending time and taking care and learning and growing. Okay, let's look at your calendar for the last month. And let's see how you spent your time. Let's open your screen report from your phone, telling us your apps and social media and streaming services, and let's see how you spend your time. They don't lie. That's why we're scared to look at them, because we don't want to be honest with ourselves and have that look in the mirror to check our bank statement and our screen report, because we don't want to look at it. But it tells the truth. And the question is, are you Ne'eman to what you claim to care about? And the calendar and your bank statement will answer that question. Are you Ne'eman? So that's Emunah. Emunah is, let's look back at your day. Did you panic? Were you anxious? Were you afraid? Did you lose your cool and get angry and give into your ego? Were you filled with envy? Were you inflated with arrogance? So you might have started your day with the statement of emes that there's Hashem, but you weren't very Ne'eman to it. But if we look at your day and we say, you know what, this didn't go right, but I was calm, cool, and collect because I knew there was Hashem. So I didn't worry. I knew that it was all part of an adventure. We'd see how it turned out next. And then this thing happened, but I said, Hashem, I'm not envious of what they have because I know you have enough to give both of us and you give me exactly what I need. Can we see that your day reveals and reflects that you are Ne'eman? There was an Amuna to the emes that you believed in the beginning of the day. Misha'ina kavua b'daita b'v'drachav yitachen she'ina over al midvar sheker tirchak aval emes eina chala alav. Ein zos bris shel emuna. If you don't live a life of dependability and consistency and reliability, you come late, you're not punctual, your word is not your bond, you're a person who says you care about this, but you don't actually follow through, you don't show up, you don't get it done, you don't do it. You say this is a truth that you believe in, but you don't demonstrate it. You're not demonstrating that you believe it, whether it's a commitment to your family or to Hashem in your life. So you may not have violated the explicit pasuk, the verse, midvar sheker tirchak. Pasuk says, distance yourself from lies, but you're also not a kli kibul, you're not a vessel that can receive, that can house, that can host the emes. Ein zos bris shel emuna. You are not honoring the covenant of Amuna. Ha'emes eina mischaberes el l'misha ne'eman hu ha'makom la'emes. The truth can only reside in a trustworthy, faithful person. The truth can only reside in a trustworthy, faithful person. Don't just say the truth, demonstrate and live and be that vehicle and instrument of the truth. I'll give you another application of this, another metaphor right now, which is so painful for us as we're watching and hearing and living it. How many people, politicians, elected officials, prominent people of influence, they're saying all the right things about Israel or about fighting anti-Semitism or about what's going on campuses. They make this statement, they make this policy, this political post, they're saying all the right things. That's lovely, it's nice, it's easy to say the right things. Are you demonstrating it? Are you demonstrating it? You can't one day at a Holocaust museum talk about never again and anti-Semitism and being not wavering or equivocal, and the next day withhold weapons that Israel needs to stop those who want to wipe them off the face of the earth. You can't say, that's the MS. I'm grateful that you posted the MS. And by the way, I don't mean to minimize it. Those who are willing to share and write and post and make statements of the MS, good. It's important. And we should write letters and thank them and encourage them. Keep saying the MS. That's only half the equation. The MS is lovely. Are you ne'eman to the MS? Do you demonstrate that MS the next day? To demonstrate it with Emunah the next day? So our frustration with certain people right now is Hashem's frustration with us. It's lovely, he, they go to the Emunah shir, they wake up every day and they daven, they say the MS that there's Hashem and you believe in me, but are you demonstrating it? Are you demonstrating it the rest of the day? That's the Emunah. We can't just offer lip service to Hashem. It has to be put into practice. We have to demonstrate it where the rubber meets the road. Something doesn't go our way. We're going through a hard time. We're tempted to be anxious. We're tempted to be envious. We're tempted to inflate with arrogance. We're tempted to get angry. Take that deep breath and stop and say, 1 second. I affirmed the MS this morning. Now I got to live with the Emunah and show up. Now I got to show up. Now I got to demonstrate it. Keep my cool and my calm. Lean in and realize he's got a plan. Now I've got to not get envious, not get angry, not be filled with arrogance. Now is my moment to be true, to be faithful to what I say I believe. How can I be faithful to what I say I believe? Faithful to what I say I believe. Right? Stop posting about standing with the Jews and stand with the Jews. Don't post, don't make statements, don't make speeches. Just stand with us. Just stand with us. Misha ina kavua. Krisis bristle emes perusha shadavar einu bar hasara ve'einu bar bittel. A real covenant means it's immutable, it's permanent, it's unbendable, it doesn't blow with the wind. Bris b'loshen targum hu kayama. The word bris, the word covenant in the Torah, the Targum, the Aramaic translation, Taiches translates the word bris as kayama. You know what kayama means? Lasting, permanent, here to stay. Rak b'ne'emanas yesh efshar sha'emes tachul. Only with ne'emanas, faithfulness and trustworthiness and consistency and covenant, only then can the MS last. Can the MS last? There are tragic divorces where the MS is that couple are love and they're soulmates, but they just can't be faithful to one another. I don't mean infidelity. I just mean respect, communication, conflict resolution. It's tragic. There are people that the MS is, they're each other's bashert. That's the MS. They complement each other beautifully. It's the MS. They belong together. It's the MS. But they just struggle to be ne'eman to that MS. They can't get it together. They can't figure it out. They can't get aligned and be faithful in honoring this covenant. So it's true in so many areas of our lives. And it's true with Hashem. The MS is He exists. The MS is He's real. The MS is He's true. And the MS is that none of that needs you. That's all true whether you believe it or not, say it or not. But what does need you is to live it, to demonstrate it, to incorporate it, to practice it, to perform it in our lives. Another distinction between MS and Emunah. MS and Emunah. MS mitzad atzma ein kiyem kavua etzel adam. Bo'oso rega shebo nidpasa etzlo ke'emes. As hametzius niris be'inav kach. Im rega echad achar kach masich and esadas min MS as he mistalakes. In MS, a fact is true while you're thinking about it. But the moment you stop thinking about it, the thought dissipates, disappears. The thought goes away. So while you're studying about gravity and thinking about gravity, and you're focused on gravity, so that emes of gravity is front and center in your mind. But the moment you moved on, and it's no longer part of your mindfulness, consciousness, mistalakas, it disappears. Not the truth of it. The truth of it remains, but its role in your life. So the strong feeling and relationship with and sharp impact of that truth is only impactful while you're focused on concentrating, thinking about the truth. So the emes doesn't have a keva. The emes, that truth, that fact that sits in a book, that sits in an ivory tower, that sits in a study hall, that sits in academia. So when you're studying it, it's impacting you. But when you close the book, and you put it back on the shelf, when you're no longer talking about it and studying it, it no longer is directly connected. It's not keva. It's not fixed in your life. The How do you keep it from being in a book, on a shelf, in an ivory tower? By developing the Amuna, the relationship with that emes. So there's an emes, there's a truth, and then I need to have a relationship with that truth. A relationship with that truth. And that's where Amuna comes in. Amuna ikoach hakolet is emes beis birirusa. V'oso soladvir yatziv kavua eitzala adam. You say, good, right now, fantastic. I'm on fire. We're about to have our planning meetings. We have them every year. They're amazing. Our staff get together, 2-3 days off campus. We reflect and review the whole year that was. We plan and we dream. We vision the year that will be. And we take notes on it. And they're the emes. They're the emes of what we want to achieve. Problem is, often they stay in a Google Doc somewhere. It's like every strategic plan. Not every. Most organizations, companies, they engage the consultant. They spend $1 gazillion. The strategic plan usually at the end tells you what you knew even before you started. Just put it in fancy binder. And you know what happens with that binder in many cases? It sits on a shelf collecting dust. Because it contains the emes, who you are, where you should go next, what you should do, what needs to be implemented, what needs to be developed, what needs to evolve. But the relationship with that emes, unless you execute, unless you perform, unless you demonstrate, unless you apply it, it just sits up there collecting dust. So the emes is that there's Hashem. And we review that emes all the time. Every time we daven, we're reviewing the emes, the facts, the truths, the axioms, the fundamentals of our faith. We're reviewing it. Shabbos HaGadol, we said that was the purpose of the Seder, to develop that curriculum. And some people recite and review that curriculum daily. If you look in the Seder at the end of Shacharis, you'll find Yud Gimel Ikarim, the 13 principles of our faith. Those are all the emes. These are the principles and the facts of our faith. Fantastic. You've recited it. You read it. Good. Now do you put the Siddur on the shelf to collect dust until Mincha? Or do you execute? Do you live? Do you manifest? Do you perform? Do you engage? That's the Emunah. That's what's fixed. So the fact is not fixed because it's not impacting me all day. It goes back on the shelf. But the faithfulness to that fact, that is what's impacting me. So on our anniversary, we sit and we talk. What do I love? What do I admire? Why did we first connect? Good. But in between anniversaries, do you take out the garbage? Are you responsive? Do you meet the needs? Do you speak respectfully? Do you honor? Are you a good listener? The fact, the truth, that's not keva. That's not something fixed and permanent and consistent that goes in and out. But the emunah, the faithfulness and trustworthiness and relationship with that fact, that is the emunah. And that's what Ramesh Shapiro is encouraging us in our relationship with Hashem. Emunah is not a belief that Hashem exists. Emunah is good. What are you doing about it? And that's part of our mission, is to the end of every day, when we're thinking about, as really successful people do, how did I spend my day? Did I meet my goals? How was my time allocated? Did I live up to what I said I wanted to do and who I wanted to be? And one of the questions in that reflection and evaluation at the end of each day or week or month or quarter, however you want to do it, is, was I faithful to what I said? These were my strategic plan for myself. This is my mission statement for me, for my family, for my life. Am I faithful to what I claim to care about? Let me look at my bank statement. Let me look at my schedule. Let me look at my screen time. Let me look at my relationships around me. Let me look at my connection with Hashem. Am I faithful to what I claim to be my priorities, my values, my ideals, my ideology? Am I faithful to it? Because the emes is the starting point, but it also could be a quick dead end unless the Amuna comes and you put it into practice. So wishing everyone a day filled with emes and Emunah. We should not only know the truth, we should live the truth, be faithful to the truth, demonstrate the truth, and be able to measure and see the truth in our lives. It should be a day filled with tremendous besoros tovos for Klal Yisrael. Tonight's behind the bima, Rabbi Dov Fendel, the Rosh Hashiva of Sderot. He was just here this past Shabbos, and sadly, today, twice, there were already sirens and rockets to Sderot. Back at it. We'll have that conversation with him tonight.